So nice to be here today. My name is Nicole, and I work in the Office of International Collaboration and Development at Railroads. I'm also myself a Railroads Master's student in the Master of Arts in Global Leadership. I'm originally from Toronto, and I have lived in several other Canadian cities and worked at several other Canadian universities across Canada, but it really is at Railroads and in Victoria where I feel most at home. So I am super honored to share information about the campus and region with all of you today. So as I share about the region, it is important to acknowledge and respect that we are on the traditional territories of the Lekwungen and Kasapsum ancestors and families. And I am presenting from my home, and my home also rests on these lands, and I am so grateful to live, raise a child, work, play, and continually learn here on these lands. So our campus history on these traditional lands includes the Dunsmuir family's arrival and establishment of Hatley Castle as their family home. And that same castle is now very famous as our campus centerpiece. In 1940, the grounds transitioned to a military college, and many more buildings, many of them covered in ivy with a real collegiate feel, were established through that period from about 1940 to early 1990s. And in 1995, Railroads became a public university, and to this day, new and modern structures are being erected and modernized throughout campus. And it lends a blend of traditional and modern architecture with flora, fauna, and fabulous views surrounding. In its entirety, the Railroads campus is a real sight to behold. It's enclosed by old-growth rainforest, and it overlooks the Pacific Ocean and the Olympic Mountains of Washington State. It's a real beautiful spectacle of coming down that hill for the first time. And every day, it's a delight. And while you may have not had the opportunity to visit the campus, you may have already had a glimpse of Railroads from the movies. The Railroads campus has been featured in many Hollywood productions, including the Deadpool films, and perhaps most notably the X-Men movies. Our Hatley Castle has another persona as the Dr. Xavier's school for gifted youngsters. At real life Railroads, our students come from a varied demographic with different needs depending on their program, courses, and stages of study. The Railroads campus landscape is diverse in many ways, but throughout, students are equipped with facilities that meet their needs, whether they're working on an executive leadership challenge in our MBA and executive management program, or working in the modern labs in our Bachelor of Arts in Environmental Science. Our classrooms are geared towards class sizes of approximately 35. They're spacious and bright with modular configurations for instructor lectures and group work. And much of our learning is done outside when the weather allows. We even have a formal outdoor classroom and many, many informal ones. Students are learning all over the campus, led by their instructors at the slight, weather that allows it, which is, I'll get to that, but frequently we have wonderful weather. Outside of class, the campus offers a wide range of self-study and small group study spaces. So those visiting for a short-term residency as part of a blended master's program or part of a blended degree completion program will find inspirational spaces to gather, bond, get to know your fellow cohort after so much time bonding online. You really do bond online in our blended and online programs, and those in the blended programs that come for the on-campus residencies will find that you already are fast friends, from day one. And the campus is just a playground to be able to explore with those friendships that are solidified. And those who are studying full-time on campus will come to find familiar spots for study, for relaxation, whether it's a sunny grove in the forest, a shady bench with a waterfall view, a perch in our Italian garden, a pagoda in our Japanese garden, or maybe just that sunny couch in the student lounge. And these places will come to feel like home. Recreation is also abundant at Railroads. We have a full-service fitness center, and it offers community and wellness programming and equipment. And our student services team also hosts events through the campus spaces to support students' interests outside of class. But the best part of campus is the opportunity to gather together, and make new friends and become familiar with new faces, like our notorious peacocks. So beyond campus, the Victoria region on the southern tip of Vancouver Island is just a short flight, so like a 15-minute flight away from Vancouver or Seattle, maybe half an hour flight from Seattle. And then ferry ride, it's about an hour and a half on the ferry from Vancouver, a little longer from Seattle, but to get to Washington State, there are a couple of options. There are just a passenger-only ferry and a car ferry that takes you over to the Olympic Peninsula. And you have limitless opportunities to explore, this whole region. It's a fabulous place to settle or just spend some extended time. And there really is something for every stage of life and interest here. And it doesn't hurt that Victoria has Canada's mildest climate. We are in a sub-Mediterranean zone. So we have lots of sun in the summer, and the winter is a little bit rainy. We are in the Pacific Northwest, but our winters are not snowy. We only see a handful of snowfall every year, and it's actually a fun opportunity to get out and play for the day, and then thankfully it usually all melts by the next day. The neighborhoods adjacent to rural roads are Colwood, and that's where I live, and Langford, and many people who work at rural roads live in these neighborhoods, and students tend to find housing in these neighborhoods. It's close by. These two municipalities are vibrant and growing with lots of new housing. Colwood was recently ranked one of the top 25 communities in Canada. It's closer to the ocean with 5 kilometers of natural and accessible beachfront and breathtaking views of the Strait of Juan de Fuca. And Langford has its very own mountain, lots of hiking, as well as abundant amenities. Langford was recently ranked as the fastest growing and most resilient community in British Columbia. In both communities, you'll find palm trees mixed with giant evergreens, big bike trails, including the Galloping Goose, which connects to downtown. There's also great transit and all new discoveries every day as the West Shore, as we call it, grows and flourishes. So the great weather and abundance of things to do within your neighborhood and beyond allow for year-round recreation and adventure. This is a little video from our friends at Tourism Victoria showcasing just a few of the things to do, from exploring the world-famous Butchart Gardens to enjoying the bikeable, walkable urban environment and touring Victoria's waterways. In this city by the sea, people like to sail, paddleboard, kayak, whale watch, and even surf nearby. In-town adventure is integrated into residential neighborhoods with beaches, parks, and other green spaces, as well as vast blue ocean close at hand. So for those enticed enough to consider settling and working here, you should know that Victoria, a city of just under 400,000 people, lives and works much bigger than the average medium-sized city. As the capital of British Columbia, there are many opportunities branching out from the seat of provincial government and into many thriving sectors: tourism, tech, education, and more. And many national and international companies and organizations maintain regional offices in the Greater Victoria area. And in Victoria, the work-play balance is one of the best in Canada. Well-considered amenities from extensive bike lanes to a thorough network of regional transit help you get to and from school or work smoothly. But here we work to live, and pursuing passions and pastimes is as much a part of the culture as is contributing to the thriving local economy. Our downtown is dynamic and diverse, with Canada's oldest Chinatown, after San Francisco, and the second most restaurants per capita, also after San Francisco. So that would put us in the top in Canada and the most historic Chinatown in Canada. And there's also vast character packed into this manageable city, with secret alleys, brick streets, and one of our streets is even still paved with wood blocks. So downtown Victoria is a 30-minute bus ride away from the serene Royal Roads campus, and that gives you the best of all worlds at the base of a very special island. So Up Island, as we like to say, is an opportunity to venture into diverse terrain with more rugged beaches, extensive hiking, skiing, or snowboarding on Mount Washington, and so much more. A visit to Tofino, Canada's surfing capital and a hotspot for dining and upscale getaways, as well as camping and storm watching, is the perfect add-on to your on-campus residency. And if you have more time or are studying on campus, there's an entire island the size of the Netherlands or Taiwan to check out. Our on-campus programs often incorporate adventures right into their programming. Here are a few images of our School of Tourism and Hospitality Management students enjoying some of the island's outdoor attractions. You see them in Tofino, hugging a giant old-growth tree, whale watching, skiing up at Mount Washington, and just enjoying the outdoors. So explore further with us to explore the possibility of studying at Royal Roads or to connect with an advisor. I think you have these email addresses if you've been on the session for a while, but if you're just joining us, for the international team, if you are looking to connect with them, it's learn.more.international@royalroads.ca. And for the domestic team, it's learn.more@royalroads.ca. And I would be happy to answer questions about Royal Roads University in Victoria, but if it's not already obvious, I need to warn you that I am pretty biased because I have developed quite a deep love for this place. So I'll just stop sharing my screen, and then I am happy to take questions. I see there are some questions in the chat, and maybe if my colleagues can guide me as to what may have already been answered, and if there are some questions to kick me off, that would be great.
Perfect. Let's see. I'm not sure if I've seen any questions yet about our location in particular. There was a comment about great farmers markets in the areas, which I must agree. I think we have the best farmer markets ever. Let me see. We have a question here from Valeria. What are the common hours for businesses in Victoria?
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at businesses, so grocery stores, for example, they would have hours from, some would be open as early as, say, 7 a.m., 7 to 9, and then they would go into the evening hours. Some are 24-hour services, so we do have 24-hour grocery stores, 24-hour drug stores. In terms of getting the essentials, we are a 24-hour city. In terms of restaurants and dining, it's not as much of a 24-hour city, but we do have, if you're a night owl, certainly there's lots of concerts and cultural things that do go later into the evening. So there's lots of variety, but in terms of just, the necessities of life, they are highly accessible.
I will also add that a lot of businesses are still open on Sundays, which I know can be different in some countries where things tend to close down. So that's a nice addition too. It's 7 days a week.
Absolutely.
And I see another question on here about how close Royal Roads would be to the downtown Victoria area.
Yeah, so Royal Roads is about, well, by bus, depending on traffic, we on average about 30 to 40 minutes. By car, you can zip downtown very quickly from Royal Roads in about 15 minutes or so. So it really just depends on what mode of transport you're taking and the time of day to incorporate traffic. So many students do, if they're considering living in Victoria and they'd like to have the downtown experience, that is something to factor in, that there is a little bit of a commute versus living in the surrounding communities where it is easier to access Royal Roads. But at the same time, it's not so, Royal Roads isn't so far away from downtown. If you're living in Langford or Colwood or View Royal or one of the nearby communities, you can't go for the evening for dinner in downtown Victoria. Of course you can. It's very close and accessible.
Question here from Abe. What outer regions, Souk, Saanich, Peninsula, Gulf Islands, would you recommend or not recommend for commuting from?
I certainly wouldn't recommend the Gulf Islands. I think that would be a bit tricky, especially if you're doing, everyday studies. If you're in a blended program and you are interested in perhaps moving to Royal Roads and then, living here around that. But if you're in a full-time on-campus program, I think that the closer municipalities such as Langford, Colwood, Metchosin, Souk's a little bit of a stretch. It can be tricky, but some people do it. We have employees at Royal Roads that live in Souk, so certainly. And then, from there, Saanich, Central Saanich, there is good transit. So it really just is a matter of Google mapping, where you think you might be ending up, or if you find some listings in different places, and then just do a Google map and click on the transit link if that's how you're planning to get around. And then you can see how long the average timing would be.
Alrighty, and I believe we have just a few more minutes as we're ending around 1. Maybe Andrea, can you give me a thumbs up if we are just have a few more minutes left?
I would say if people are welcome and they want to stay for an extra 5 minutes, for sure we can cover some of those questions. I see there's a few questions, so yeah.
Perfect. We'll try to answer a few more then. Thank you so much to everyone who has stuck around so far. I see a question from Rachel here. What are some of the part-time job opportunities for students in the city?
Yeah, I mean, it really ranges. I mean, Victoria is quite a diverse city in terms of industries. So it depends on what fits you in terms of once you're in your program. If you are a full-time student and you're looking for part-time work, and if you're an international student, then you can work up to 20 hours off campus when you have the full-time student status. And so a lot of students are looking for something that maybe isn't an exact fit with their experience or program, but is closer by. Some people may be, more keen on finding that fit and working, maybe not getting quite as many hours, and then they might find something that's more industry-based. And so it really runs the gamut. The nice thing about Royal Roads is that, so much of our learning is applied. And so the faculty here is very connected as well. And so they can, if you're looking for something that's very notched into your program, they can make some recommendations about companies, organizations, and the industries that are here where you may be able to have that opportunity while you're in your program. But some students just like to have a job that's totally unattached from their studies, so they can just, keep the two separate and not feel too pressurized. So it's really up to a student.
Perfect. And questions surrounding facilities for learning sports, for learning instruments, and those types of extracurriculars.
Yeah, so aside from our great Royal Roads Recreation Center, Langford is actually emerging to be this major sports center with Tennis Canada and many other different, national bodies at the elite level. And that trickles right down into the community. So there's lots of sports leagues in terms of soccer or football, depending on where you're calling in from. And then also lots of different leagues. So sport and social leagues that are all around Victoria that people have the opportunity to take part in. Again, it's quite endless. And then if you don't see something and you're interested in starting a league of your own, that's something that I've seen people do as well. So lots of opportunity to get involved with sport. In terms of music, there are lots of facilities, lots of private music teachers if you're learning to learn a new instrument, or if you're looking to get involved with a choir or a band. Again, that's just in the community, and it's something that can be reached out to, and you can join. It's a very inclusive. I think you saw the accolade that we got around being friendly, and it really is. So if there's something you're interested in getting involved with, there's all kinds of inroads. Royal Roads, faculty and staff can serve as someone that you can ask questions of, and then send you on your way to go and find those resources and networks in the community. But someone should be able to tip the hat to where you can find if you're looking to take clarinet lessons or join a choir or join a basketball league.
Exactly. Another question here about where the best places would be to rent for international students. And I think you touched on the areas in general a little bit. And I will also point out that tomorrow, let me just double check the time, from 2 to 2:30, we're going to have a session specifically on tips for finding housing. So I think that will be where you're going to want to dive deep and learn more about those different types of options.
Yes, absolutely. I think that session will go, much more in depth on housing beyond just the basic areas. They will have information on, average costs and what the typical student at Royal Roads, the options are from homestay all the way to, to your own place, to sharing with other students, and all kinds of these scenarios will be laid out.
Mm-hmm. A rain-related question. How much is it wet throughout the year in Victoria?
I don't have the actual rain stats. I think that's probably something you could just search, quite easily. But anecdotally, it is not that rainy. I have lived in Vancouver as well, and I actually think that where I was up in Little Valley in North Vancouver was much rainier than here. what it feels like to me and other people that I've spoken to is that through the months of November to March, you'll have rainy periods intermixed with just sort of cloudy periods and some sunny days. It's not consistent rain all the way through. You're not going to get drowned out.
Yeah, it's really not that bad, I swear, too. Okay, and a question surrounding parking in Victoria. If you have your own car and you want to check out the downtown area, what is that sort of situation like?
Yeah, it depends on the day of the week. And so during the weekdays, these days, it is quite quiet because most people are working from home. And then on the weekends, it can be a little bit tricky to find a parking spot, but there are parkades, there is street parking, there are small parking lots. There's lots of options. So in terms of nabbing that free parking spot, it's becoming more and more elusive downtown. But you get out of the downtown core a little bit, and there is, there are more spots that open up if you're willing to walk a few blocks.
Yeah, and I actually find, compared to other cities, it's pretty good in Victoria as far as being able to snag a spot in a parkade, and a lot of them are like free for the first hour or two and things like that. So yeah, it's manageable.
Manageable for sure.
Yeah. And let me just check out, there is a few questions around scholarships and things like that. We will have some sessions specifically on awards and financial aid tomorrow if you do want to dig into that a bit more, as well as you can reach out to our team for more questions on that and travel restrictions and things like that. So with that in mind, as we're 5 minutes over our time period, thank you so much, everybody, who is stuck around this far and who has listened in on this session. But I think at this point, we can probably wrap it up for this session. And Nicole, is there anything that you wanted to add before we head out for today?
No, I mean, I could go on and on. So I'll maybe just cap it there. But I know that, of the two email addresses that we've given out, everyone is equally as enthusiastic about where we live, the region we're in. So if you have any questions, please just, feel free to share them with the Learn More email address or the Learn More international email address. And they'll be able to enthusiastically support you as well.